our first speaker is going to be a very handy speaker to listen to, because he is going to be talking on the topic of the next generation of revenue assurance in the 4G environment. And I know that the Subex crew have been telling me all about this guy yesterday, so they really admire this guy and the work that he's been doing for Reliance. So let me introduce to you today Sanjay Batham, the General Manager and Lead Design and Implementation at Reliance. Sanjay, please come up to the stage. I thought he was in the room a second ago, so this looks terrible. Sanjay, there we go. Please come up to the stage. They're raring for you, Sanjay. They're really keen on learning about 4G.
Hello.
Here's your clicker.
Good morning, friends. I hope you had a wonderful time yesterday evening. But unfortunately, I didn't. Know why? Because I didn't got a chance to have my belly dance. Some of the lucky fellows like Suraj, Ashwin, they got a chance. So what I thought is, I practiced the whole night a belly dance. So I want to shake my belly today for next half an hour, because for LTE, I think we have discussed a lot. So let's see something different. You have seen the girls, so will it be interesting to see a boy? Sorry, I don't want to harass you for showing my ballet dance to you. But I want to shake your minds for LTE, for what's going to happen in 4G LTE. Yesterday, most of the people thought that it's only the speed which will be changing our scenarios for revenue assurance fraud management. But with speed, there are many other things which will impact the entire revenue assurance fraud management view. So we have to get up now, because I think most of the frauds or revenue assurance reconciliations, which we talk about, are generic to 2G, 3G world. And we are stably doing all those. Specifically in the area of fraud management. Like we have seen PRS frauds or high usage frauds. Those are generic. I think we all have done it and we all are moving on it, and we know what happens and how to handle those. But we don't know what will happen in 4G and how we have to handle that. I also don't have answers to most of the questions because we are still not live. So these are all hypothetical situations, but yes, it will be relevant. If you guys will see, I think you will enjoy it. Okay. So let's talk about what's different in Telco 2.0. We know that we all are working on voice, SMS, data, interconnect, and cable TV. Now when we move with the 4G LTE world, there are new areas which get opened as a revenue streams for us. So voice over data with higher QoS qualities. Business model change. So I will talk in detail about this model of minutes to byte base. The faster speeds, everybody knows. Wired FTTX broadband. Wireless broadband with network offloading as well. Again, in detail, I will tell you about this. Other OTT things which are already there in market. I'm not saying that these are totally new to us, but yes, these are evolving. And the revenue stream model is changing from a traditional voice to all these. If you've seen like company like Google, we talk about. Google don't have retail customers. They run an entire business on advertisement. So why a telecom operator can't think about those things? So rather than getting a revenue from customers, these are new areas from which we can get revenues. And I think we haven't still not started much on prevention fraud management on these areas. So video on demand, music streaming, mobile gaming, mobile payment services. So all are still there. Again, I'm saying that it's not that, it is not there, but it's evolving and it's drastically changing our life. Other optimized utilities like cloud services, enterprise infrastructure, wholesale services, M2M services and advertisement. These are very big areas which are coming up specifically for the telcos. Okay. What are the major things in 4G LTE as a network or a OSS BSS area? See, majority of thing, if we talk about pure LTE, there's not much change from network point of view. We talk about SGSN, GGSN, so we have PGW, SGW, almost same type of structures there. But when we talk about VoLTE, yes, there are different ways to handle VoLTE. And in VoLTE, we also have to see that it's always over data. So data is always there and voice is always there. So where you have a new network element introduced for that, so for reconciliations and other fraud related things, we have to consider those network elements for us. Another big challenge is parallel networks, because not everybody is on 4G LTE and it will take big time to everybody to come on that. So we have to manage both till the time we change from normal 2G, 3G to 4G world. Another is non-standard implementation. As we know that 4G is still evolving, so things are not so standard. The data structure, feed, or implementation, everybody is doing their own type of implementations. So we have to have, specifically we talk about interconnect and roaming agreements. Still there is no standards, nobody knows how to handle them. Everybody is just talking about it, but no standards as of now. Okay, so what we need is a mindset shift, which is very important for us. We are not coming out from the charging, specifically in fraud management. See, revenue assurance is still the same area. I will talk about only related to how we can manage a huge volume and how we can handle those stuff. But for fraud management, yes, there are huge areas which we have to think about it and the way we have to handle those scenarios. People are thinking a new pricing model. Currently, we talk about high usage frauds, PRS frauds, SIM boxing frauds. These are all fraud types, but once the model will change, if I think everybody here is using Viber to make a calls. Nobody use while roaming to make a voice calls. So you're moving towards the data side. And in data side, there's nothing called minutes. Everybody wants to work on bytes, so or your quality of services. So once that data model will shift, then what we will do with all these fraud management things which we have done till now, it's useless. We're not able to work. All PRS frauds, high destination fraud. So voice will be totally crapped in coming years. So we have to think what can happen wrong in data, how we can handle these scenarios. Another is beyond traditional services. Again, the same thing which I'm talking about, that other than the normal voice and SMS, we'll be having data, TV, content, and cloud services, which will be the major revenue streams for us. Increase in transactions volume. In revenue assurance, this is the major area because here we find a major challenge that how to handle this huge data and reconciling billions of CDRs to find just a small bit of 100 USD type of exceptions. So we have to think that whether we really want it or not. So we have to think about the logic of big data or sampling methodology to handle those scenarios. Lack of skill sets, which is again area, because as of now, we don't have much people knowing about what happens in 4G LTE and how it will evolve. It can be different than what I am talking today, because things are changing very drastically. When I started my career in '99, we were using data services like on PC. And on that, you used to take minutes to download one JPG file. But now, it's seconds. And when we talk about 4G LTE, it will be milliseconds. So the volumes and data is increasing day night. So we have to think about what skill sets we require to handle those things. Another increase in assurance costs. All operators' margin is reduced. So people are looking for a cost reduction in all areas, and revenue assurance is one of them. So we have, it is a big challenge to say that revenue assurance is not a cost center, it is a revenue center. But we have all together to find a ways to convince the people that it is indirectly a revenue center, not a cost center. Okay, let's talk about what will be there in next generation fraud management. Again, if we talk about what is different, again, I will say it's not different. It is evolving. And with the speed it is evolving, I think we are not geared up. We have to take immediate actions now, otherwise it will be too late. We have, rather than proactive, we'll be reactive to all those things which are coming up. If you see, the fraud risk remains similar but have evolved due to the following scenarios, like new network elements and data feed and interfaces. I talked about like VoLTE. So you have voice over data. So you have a data as well, you have a voice as well. So both CDRs are there. So how to handle those feed, how to do those reconciliations in the volume. Updated network access authentication methods. Yes, this is one of the area which I will come in detail about. How we, there are two things majorly which is changing because of 4G LTE. One is the speed, so access to the data. Another is the services under one umbrella, or a single sign-on, or easy user accesses. Like somebody yesterday asked that now things are moving from MSISD or mobile number to user IDs. So things will change. So what is authentication methods for them? It will be very different. I think we guys haven't thought about it, how to handle those scenarios. If we don't think it now, it will be too late. Increase CPU and types of other questionable securities. So once we move to IP world, there is a big question on security as well. Power user service access exploitation, which is again an internal fraud type of thing, which we have to think about it. Increase user exposure to IP and fraud takeover. These are again more, you will say, these are not related to revenue and fraud management, but these are more related to IT security. But if we talk about that, then we have to merge with IT security. That's how it will evolve. If we be different from what IT security is doing, I think we will not talk each other, and then we will find the gaps. Other is new business and customer application, different login and access levels. The last one is the non-standard roaming and interconnect agreement. We don't know about how VoLTE roaming will happen, how we will handle tap exchange in these scenarios when it will be on data, nothing called voice. Where will be the breakup, whether it will be home breakout or it's foreign breakout. So those type of things are there. Interconnect agreements, those are also changing, which is now from minute base, we'll say, let's have a settlement based on the volumes. Why we want minute based settlements? When everything is on volumes, let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about what are network and service access related things. So these are the user equipments and CP equipments which will be vulnerable to different type of frauds. Earlier, we used to have only a single SIM, and authentications were very simple. Now we have iSIM, USIM, single sign-on. Everybody wants connectivity everywhere, and from easy access. So how to handle those scenarios? We have device or SIM throwing snipe for ROG, eNodeB and FIPNoCell. Still a vast area to cover up for fraud management. We don't see these things in any of the roadmaps now. We have to create, jointly we have to work together with the Subex as well and bring up those things. Device authentication and security in the hands of the manufacturers. This is again an area. If you see the handsets for LTE and 4G, it's still coming up, but yes, we have to see how these things are embedded into the handsets. How we will ensure that we don't face any changes in the security parameters. Third-party firmware and apps available to assist hacking. This is again a bigger area. So I'm saying these if you see specifically from advanced fraud, specifically related to service authentications or SIM authentications users, we have to think about it. We have not thought about it. Okay. Device or account takeovers. User equipments are exposed to malicious apps. There are hundreds of apps available. Still, we have seen that there are type of frauds happen on SMS. Just think what will happen if apps will start creating problems for us in data. The customers' problems will have huge data disputes with the customers in those areas. So we have to find the ways. We cannot say that this is not revenue assurance fraud management. This is just the security part. We have to gear up. That's what I'm saying, that if we have to justify ourselves as a revenue assurance fraud management to our organization, we have to think beyond all these things. Otherwise, we'll be just doing the same type of reconciliations and the alerts, and we're not able to show any new things to our organizations. Hacking our customer firmware or CP expose them to same level of risk. So we have up to the end mile there where hackers can easily go and do usages. Consumers or technical access credential exposure around a single sign-on, still not explored. Another potential fraud risk which I have highlighted due to these enablers are loss to users' reputation risk, organization DOS attacks, ADD or content request, compromise access securities, open SIP access through port scanning. We say that these are internal to IT security, but we have to gear up for this. Different implementation of for interconnect and roaming part. So this is again a new area which is still evolving. We don't know how to handle NRTRD applicability in LT. What type of issues may come up, what type of settlement, because nobody has still done a formal roaming agreements as of now. So we don't know what will happen in this. VoLTE in roaming is still an open area. LT is still as work, but VoLTE is still very open in that. And another is different operator implementation, different roaming agreement. It will be a known roaming or local or a home, specifically for VoLTE. How to handle the voice call? Nobody knows. Means it's evolving, we know it, but we have to find what is the best way and what we have to do as a revenue assurance fraud management in these areas. Fraud detection in near real time based on the B party, especially for voice and SMS. Don't know. Notorious VP elements may be behind issues. There's lack of standards and SLSP. Cloning may lead to bigger risk. So we have seen that cloning has reduced a lot, but now with moving again to LT, this may pop up. Technical issues like signaling and errors versus generic to 3G as well. Power users. This is again a big area. So if you see, specifically in the nodes which is highlighted in the red, which is PGD, SGSN, and your MME, various techniques are available to bypass chargings, gain free accesses to services. In 2G, 3G world, we have standards, we know that how the separation happens, how we can monitor the separations, how we can monitor the logs. But in LT, it's still a questionable thing. See, we are working on LT, but still we haven't done a full-fledged implementation. So we are also learning. So I don't have a case studies for all this. If you ask me questions, I'm sorry I'm not able to answer your questions. I will try my best to do it. But these are new areas which, as part of implementation, we are seeing that it can come. And we are trying to cover it. Spoofing or device configuration updates may also help divert charging to some areas. Because that's what I'm saying. So voice is standards which we know how it is working, how it's handling, but VoIP, we don't know how it will work, how it will handle, how we will do our scenarios. If somebody has done anything on VoIP, I think it will be a good to share with the entire team here, because I have met most of the people and nobody knows what will going to happen in VoIP. So URL masking, as Mr. Amit told yesterday about it. So this is one of the area which is normally there in the 2G, 3G world as well. So how to handle the URL masking, which is very easy. You will get on a website, and how to generally most of the operators are giving few of the website free, like your Facebook or your Google. People are doing masking and doing a high usages, data usages behind those URLs. IP or private, public user ID spoofing by IP packet header. So again, a new area to work on. MAC address. Yes. So MAC address, if we talk about in LTE, because of the handsets, when we talk about the user IDs not about your mobile numbers. Your MAC ID becomes a key parameter for your authentications. There will be bundling, there will be linkage between your MAC ID and a user IDs. So how to handle those specific areas of cloning or spoofing of MAC addresses to gain unauthorized access to your network. APN modification, which is normal, which is there, but yes, we have to think about this as well. Access to user service access credentials. This is a normal, which is there in 2G, 3G, so I don't want to talk that. Okay. Internal fraud. Internal fraud, I think most of the operators don't take it seriously. We think it's actually the customer fraud, subscription fraud, usage frauds. But if you've seen, other than the subscription fraud, there is something which is done by internal users. So 95% of fraud, a huge fraud, must be linked to our internal employees, either an ex-employee or an internal employee which was there working right now. So you have to see how you have to handle those, because when we talk about the network elements in LTE, it's huge. If we don't cover them, there are chances of leakages happening. I'll give you an example of how your internal users can change a customer's bandwidth. So the entire game change for user will be the speed and the quality of services. And the quality of services and speed, customers is based on your PCRF, how it will be done, what will be his credential, how it will be implemented, his policies. Those can be changed very easily. And if you don't monitor those changes, this will be a huge loss to the company when a customer with the low bandwidths is using a high bandwidths. And we have practically, when we are trying to do this implementation, we are finding challenges that it's not so straightforward that you take a subscriber information and do it on a real-time basis, because it's so dynamic in nature. Like customer wants a boost for 1 hour. You take a bandwidth boost and moves out. So those changes are very dynamic in nature. Using the same CDR concept or a usage concept, we're not able to achieve it, because we have to produce billion and trillions of usages. And from that, we will find out 0.0001% of defects. So with the cost to handle the entire volume and with the output of it will not match. So we have to find ways to handle those things. So simple things happens when we have issues in internal fraud. It is benefiting to self, collision and assistance, commission-based, which is standard, social influence and monetary gains. This is all about, I was talking about fraud management. Let's see what happens in revenue assurance. In fraud management, we have seen few different areas, but in revenue assurance, we don't have much to do differently than what we are doing it. The only thing which I see is how to handle the volumes and how to handle the charging methodology which is changing the world. Okay. So these are the different changing things happening, so that we have to adopt towards these specific areas in revenue assurance, like content-rich consumptions and pattern, targeted products to large data users. We need not to run behind individual users to get it. It's a huge cost to manage a single users and charging. Why to do that if we can get a huge revenue from the wholesale business rather than running behind a single users? We can give a free services to users and get from my wholesale partners. Pricing that accounts of rich content and usages, accounting new charging methodology. With the advantage of LTE and understanding of revenue, we need to bot in the following area, which is transportation revenues, content and service revenues, third-party and OTT revenues. So that's what I'm saying, that we are still focusing on user revenues. We have to think about these revenue streams as well. LTE brings a new area of calculating revenue leakage and opportunity loss. This is always a challenge for revenue assurance to prove or do a quantification of any revenue loss or a fraud loss. It can be a direct or it can be indirect. But here it becomes more complicated, like leakage across content pricing patterns, throttling and bandwidth usages. So these are so dynamic in nature. If you find the gaps, also if you give it as a basic calculation, I think we will not justify our work. So we have to find different ways to say how we have to produce these outputs, means related to how we will calculate these potential leakages, accounting for opportunity loss within the new products and service pricing. Okay. Next generation in RA, again, the only difference is we'll have a newer stream and we have to accommodate all these. We have to also work with the traditional network. So we have to work for both. So we have CDRs from legacy, you have from 4G. So you have to manage both in parallel, which will be a huge cost. And also required different rules to handle both the networks. This is non-standard implementation of 4G LTE. Everybody currently is in their own. Yes, we use 3GPP standards for network area, but specifically in OSS, BSS, no, there's no standard. Everybody is working on their own way. Some company only launches LTE, somebody is launching VoLTE, somebody looks end-to-end from FTTH, VoLTE, LTE, Wi-Fi, everything is there. So how these things will be handled, it will be specific to the operators, but yes, you can have informations from others so that we can implement in our network fast. New revenue streams, which is rich content, music, magazines, management, delivery becomes the see, what you see is when we talk about new revenue streams, they're also a huge volume. Like if we talk about advertisements, the revenue from advertisement, how you'll get the usages for advertisement, how we'll ensure that we are getting a proper revenue from advertisement. There's no CDRs for it. If you want to generate the CDRs, it will be 4 times than what we will have currently 2G, 3G networks. New pricing model says, this is what I was talking about, that new pricing model. Now, minute base, what is minute base? It's old fashioned. People are thinking to move towards byte base because data is the key now. Voice will slowly go down, specifically from the charging point of view. And when we talk about data, it will be Wi-Fi and LTE as well. So you will able to seamlessly using those data services to make voice calls, then why you have to do a charging differently for voice calls. Other option is increase in transaction volumes. Now, how to handle this? This is the biggest challenge for us in a revenue assurance fraud. So I think some of the guy yesterday was talking about they are handling around 1 billion CDRs a day. Okay. In India, we have a huge volume. We talk about minimum 3 billion CDRs a day to manage it. But is it logical to do the huge reconciliations only for CDRs? Can we do something differently to find a ways? So I'll give an example like a sampling methodology. So we talk about normal sampling methodology to use between peak hours, off-peak hours, 2 hours, 4 hours. Can we change that? Can we think something differently? Like, do we really bothered about the customers who are on my subscription plans? Because those are unlimited users, so they can use unlimited data. I know there can be some network-related issue which we can find it, but it is not worth. So only can we monitor only those users which are actually usage-based payers, not the subscription-based payers. So if we change that methodology, we'll reduce our volume very drastically. And in LT, this is what will happen. Now, customer always wants an unlimited plan for a data. Very rarely you will see users will go for a normal plans, 2 GB, 3 GB, or they are standard. So still you will find it, but majority of people, because they don't know what usage will come at the end of my bill. So everybody wants to have an unlimited plan. So why we need to do a usage reconciliation in that case? Let's do a subscription reconciliation. It will change the entire IT structure, IT hardware structure for us. Product and services launch. So once we move more towards these new areas, we'll be having a challenge of new product implementations rapidly into the market. So we have to cope up with that. How to validate those, how to handle in an efficient way that how new products which are going into the market are well tested, well proven, and we ensure that there will not be any leakages in those areas. Margin management. Again, as I'm saying that now, all the companies are looking towards cost management. So we have to move towards these new areas. If we'll not move, we will have a big challenge to prove ourselves. Not easy. We are saying margin management is not our job. As I think from AT&T, the gentleman from AT&T, they have bring internal audit as well. So these are all one functions. So we have to think how we can minimize the usage cost or user cost and bring it into one umbrella, because these are all interlinked. We might be doing the same activity, 3 people in 3 different directions. If we have one single team looking after all these, it will be good. I think, thank you very much.